You would not believe the number of questions that I get from leaders, HR professionals, and business owners about technology and communication. Now, I'm not a technology expert, but I am an expert in communication, and I can tell you firsthand, after mediating hundreds of workplace conflicts with thousands of people, that technology generally does not support effective communication in conflict resolution. Let me give you a couple of examples. There's a tendency when people get an email that ticks them off, that irritates them in some way. There's a tendency to quickly and emotionally type back a response and fire it off to the other person, later regretting what's been said and now having yet another problem to deal with. So one of the things we want to do with technology is any communication that could have an impact on trust, workplace relationship, and the company goals needs to be handled verbally between people. Face-to-face is best if you can arrange that. However, a lot of teams are mobile teams or remote teams, and they don't actually get together physically in the same room. So picking up the phone will serve you much better than firing off that emotional email that comes back to bite you later. I'm Charmaine Hammond, your expert in communication, conflict resolution, and collaboration, and let me share an example of that. Many years ago, I was working with a government department who was having a number of team issues, and I had come in to facilitate a team building training session for them. And one of the reasons I was brought in was that one of the employees had got really irritated with a decision that had been made in their organization and fired off an email to the supervisor. Now, there was one problem. The person was so upset, she did not read the name that she had chosen. Let's say it was Susan, and she had lots of Susans in her directory, in her contact list. She fired it off to the wrong Susan, not to Susan, her boss, Susan from the local newspaper. I know, your heart's racing, you're thinking, oh my gosh, did that really happen? It did. And thankfully for her, Susan from the newspaper immediately called her and let her know that this email had been received in error and she was deleting it. You can imagine the heart rate of the employee who has just been sort of called on this. Now, here's what's really interesting. You might be wondering what happened next. Did she bring it up to the supervisor? No. But she had blind carbon copied a whole bunch of other people who then forwarded it to the supervisor. So the supervisor found out. You can imagine there was a whole bunch of conversations that happened around integrity and process and confidentiality. This was a great example and a great reminder of why, when we're upset, email is never the way to respond to it. If you feel like you have to respond by email because sometimes you are required to do so, the best thing you can do is type up your response, not in email, but in a Word document that has no risk of being sent anywhere. Sit on it, pull it back up an hour later, read it. Read it out loud. Imagine that you're the person receiving this email. How's it landing for you? Does it feel too intense? Does it feel accusatory? Does it feel vague? If it does, rewrite it. Set it aside for an hour and come back to it. This is very, very important because when you write these responses that are effective, clear, concise, and without drama, there is a reduced chance of this turning into a bigger issue. I'm Charmaine Hammond, your expert in communication, conflict resolution, and collaboration. You can find out more about us at charmainehammond.com.